I never imagined betrayal could come from the people closest to you, not from strangers, not from coworkers, not from fleeting acquaintances, but from the family you trust, the ones you think will always have your back. It all started when my marriage began to fracture. My wife and I had been together for nearly a decade, married for 4 years, and on the surface, everything seemed normal. But cracks had started to appear. Subtle at first, little comments that didn't quite make sense, whispers in the hallways. Her phone always just a little too close to her body. I noticed the way she'd smile at messages when I walked into the room. The way her laughter sometimes carried a note that wasn't meant for me. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself that I was imagining things, that trust is the foundation of a marriage, and I had built ours carefully over the years. But intuition is a quiet, insistent voice, and it started speaking louder with each passing month. The day I found out, I was sitting in the living room when my brother dropped by. He always had that smug look, the one that made me uncomfortable, but I didn't suspect him. I'd never imagined the depth of deceit hiding behind our family dinners and casual greetings. She laughed at me, my brother said casually, leaning against the doorway. No wonder you're still single at 35. I stared at him, confused, until I realized he wasn't talking about my marital status. He was mocking me for the woman I had married, the woman I had trusted, the life I thought I was building. It hit me like a punch to the gut. My wife, my own wife, had been with him. The betrayal was not only marital, but fraternal. My brother, the man I called family, had stolen my wife and everything I had worked to build. For a moment, rage consumed me. The kind of rage that burns hot and fast, that clouds your vision and rattles your heart. I could feel it building in my chest, in my fists, in the tight set of my jaw. I wanted to scream, to confront them both, to demand answers, to make them feel a fraction of the pain they had caused me. But then I took a deep breath and something shifted, something that surprised even me. I smiled, not a weak, trembling smile, not the kind that masks hurt, but controlled, knowing smile, one that carried the weight of truth and a quiet sense of power. Actually, I said slowly, letting my words land like stones, I've been married for 4 years. You just weren't invited. My brother's smirk faltered. His eyes widened, a flicker of shock flashing across his face as the gravity of my words sank in. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. The smugness that had defined him for years was gone, replaced by the realization that I had taken control of the narrative he thought he owned. The revelation was mine, and I wielded it carefully. I told him nothing else. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't make a scene. Instead, I let the silence stretch between us, a quiet judgment heavier than any accusation. In the days that followed, I discovered more of the extent of betrayal. Messages she had tried to hide, lies she had told to cover the affair. Times he had slipped into our home when I wasn't looking. The picture painted by evidence was ugly, but I refused to let it define me. I would not be the victim in this story. I would be the one who rewrote it with dignity intact. I called a lawyer, not to exact revenge, not to humiliate, but to understand my options, to protect myself and my assets, and to prepare for a life that did not include the 2 people who had betrayed me. The legal steps were procedural, but the emotional ones were deliberate. I chose to hold my head high, to confront the situation with clarity rather than chaos. Friends and family rallied around me when the truth came out. They were shocked, horrified, and some were furious on my behalf. And yet, amidst the pain and anger, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The truth had been revealed, and I was no longer blind to the people I could not trust. My wife reached out later, expecting anger, tears, and maybe even an apology. She found calm instead. I spoke to her with measured words, acknowledging betrayal, but refusing to let it consume me. My brother tried to apologize, but I listened and let the silence after my words do the talking. There's a lesson buried in this, one that isn't easy to articulate. Betrayal can come from the closest people in your life, but it does not have to define your existence. You can reclaim your power, your narrative, and your life. I chose to do that. I chose to smile when they expected me to break. I chose to exist on my own terms. I chose to live fully, without the shadow of their deceit clouding my world. In the end, I realized that the marriage I had lost was not the one I truly needed. I had given love, trust, and commitment to people who had no intention of honoring it. And by surviving their betrayal with grace, I had discovered something more valuable than revenge or anger: my own strength. Sometimes the hardest victories are the quiet ones. Sitting across from someone who tried to belittle you, who laughed at your pain, and smiling with the knowledge that your life has continued. Your heart remains intact, and your dignity is unshakable. That was my victory. And as I watched my brother stumble over his words, I knew one thing for certain. No one who betrays you deserves a seat at the table you set for your life. Not even family. Not even the person who once promised forever. Because forever, it turns out, begins with you.